Many of us today are sort of stuck in this feeling of depression. Um, we're unable to motivate. There's no desire in us to go out and get things done. Because of that, we feel anxiety because we're not getting things done, right? And ultimately, there's this feeling that what's the point anyway? There's no purpose to my life. There's no meaning. There's nothing there. Why should I act? And we're all sort of, or seem to be, stuck in this cycle of depression, anxiety, purposelessness, going nowhere, doing nothing, and ultimately not being happy. Yet we want to be happy, right? So,
Yeah, it's
well, I was going to ask, what is it that's causing this problem?
so it's basically being caused by a form of self-sabotage, that it's our own habits and lifestyles that are causing this kind of this self-defeating cycle. Because self-sabotage is a term which is used commonly in the psychological realm, and it's things like procrastination, perfectionism, lack of communication, certain things that we do which sabotage a goal that we set ourselves up for. Now, let me read just a definition of what self-sabotage is. So self-sabotage is when people do or don't do things that block their success or prevent them from accomplishing their goals. It happens consciously, or, and this is the important part, is it can happen unconsciously. Self-sabotaging behaviors can affect our personal and professional success, as well as our mental health. So, a good example would be, your doctor tells you that you should start an exercise program. And this is great, but you hate going to the gym. So knowing this, you sign up for a gym membership and sessions with a trainer, figuring that the extra accountability will keep you motivated. On the first day of training, you arrive to the gym 20 minutes late and without your sneakers. So it's, you've got a goal, right? You've got a goal of, I want to be healthy, but you've got this sort of state, an emotional sort of feeling toward working out or going to the gym, or something about this process you don't like and you don't want to deal with it. And so you sort of unconsciously sabotage your ability to do it, even though you want the outcome.
So like a good example of this would be like when I'm procrastinating at something, like I know I need to do a thing, but there's something inside me telling me I don't want to, something that doesn't want to do that thing, and it's sabotaging me from doing it. Is that right?
Yeah, like a kind of procrastination would be, I need to study for an exam, but my fear of failure of that exam could be keeping me from doing the studying, because when I study, I'm just, in the state of terror of failure of the exam that I just don't want to deal with it. So I instead do something else. So this idea of self-sabotage is often applied to things like going to the gym and working out or studying for a test. But what about these other things that we deal with, heavy, big things that we deal with every day, like a sense of depression, a sense of anxiety that's just a constant life, like a lifestyle that we're dealing with. Because if we want to be happy, that's our goal. But we're stuck in this pattern of, feeling kind of antipathy with our life. We're sort of unmotivated. We have a sense that life is purposeless. That's a kind of blockage, that's a kind of block toward our goal of being happy. And that's a kind of self-sabotaging lifestyle. And so this is something.
It's the same pattern going on.
Exactly. It's the same kind of pattern, except uh, I I think it's an ideological
So,
self-sabotage.
so,
You know, it's
so basically we can set it up as I, I want to achieve, goal, but I keep doing sabotage, but certain sabotage behavior. And then you could just insert whatever concrete example is happening in your own life, right?
yeah, exactly, Jonathan. That's exactly right. Like you've got a goal, but you're doing behavior which is keeping you from that goal.
And so
Um,
I think what you're trying to get to is that it's not just my unwillingness to run on the treadmill that's stopping me, but that on a deeper level, on a more fundamental level, I hold certain ideas that are stopping me from doing what I need to do. So this isn't just self-sabotage. This is ideological self-sabotage. And I obviously there's a lot of room for us to kind of expand on what it is we're talking about. So for some reason, we hold certain ideas that are placing us in a way of life that is causing us to be unhappy, depressed, anxious, purposeless. And it's those ideas that we need to address and deal with. So my question is, where are these ideas that we hold that are sabotaging our lives coming from? And what are some examples? Like, what would that look like?
for instance, you can feel like you aren't worthy uh, to succeed in life, or that you can't succeed in life. You know, that's a feeling that's an ideological feeling in terms of your relation to the world, in terms of your efficacy in the world. And that can lead to a sense of stagnation, or that can lead to inaction, because if
Well,
you
right.
can't succeed in the
If I
world.
feel like I'm not worthy to achieve something or do something, then I'm not going to want to do it.
Yeah, and you would inevitably feel, what's the point of doing anything? Or if you feel like you're unworthy, then you might even go so far as to reject things which come your way, because well, I don't deserve that.
Right.
And to reiterate, this stuff happens subconsciously. That this is not like a conscious kind of thing. Self-sabotage is not typically not a conscious thing. So
Yeah. I
if
mean,
we
who's
hold,
out there wanting to sabotage their life consciously? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and another example could be, you feel like what you do doesn't really matter. And I've heard people say this almost explicitly. Like, oh, whatever. Life doesn't really mean anything, or like, either way things will work out, or something like that. You feel like your actions don't really have that much of an impact on your life or the lives of others, or it doesn't really matter. So the effect is, you're not really going to choose your actions very effectively. You're not going to take it seriously. You're not going to spend the time to really consider your choices. And ultimately the effect is, again, you're going to feel like your life is pointless, or you'll be stagnant. You won't make critical decisions of importance.
Well, I mean, I know there's certain times when I've been, I don't know, out in the world, um, or I see a girl and that I'm attracted to and that I like, and who I think it would be nice to talk to. And I know I've felt stopped from, potentially flirting with a girl I see, because I'm afraid that I'll come across as creepy. Um, And I know, I guess that's what you're talking about. It's sort of this idea that flirting is creepy and I don't want her to think of me that way. And I guess those are all ideas that I hold subconsciously, and they're stopping me from taking an action, right?
Yeah, that's a good example. And to again bring it back to this idea of ideological self-sabotage, because it's one can definitely argue that aren't these all just feelings that we have, and oh, isn't that just your problem, Jonathan? And
Mhm.
like these are things that are being taught to us in our culture today. The
Well,
idea that
yeah, that's
you're
my next question is where do these ideas come from? Why do we hold them?
yeah. Um,
So you're saying they're being taught to us.
we learn, what's good and what's right, and what the basically the nature of life from the culture around us. We learn from our parents. What this is how you behave yourself, or this is how you ask a girl out, or this is how you succeed in life. And we learn from our teachers, and we learn from the movies and TV shows and the music that comes out. We get a sense of what life is like from those. We see in the movies, the characters doing certain things, achieving certain things. And if you look at different time periods of their artwork from different time periods, we can get a sense of how they saw life. And when we grow up in that culture, we're getting that sense of what life is like from the art around us. And just think about all the times in your life that you were in a situation and your peers, your friends at school were telling you, oh no, this is how it's done. Oh no,
Yeah.
don't go ask her out, or do go ask her out, or no, you got to find a girl that's like this, or not that one, or oh, why are you behaving this way, or why are you interested in that thing? you know there are opinions on how life should be lived all around us all the time, and that's constantly shaping our view of how we should go about life.
Right.
But the issue is, what if those ideas aren't conducive to our happiness?
So it's those ideas out there in the culture that could potentially be harming us.
Exactly. Yeah, if we live in a culture where the ideas and the way of looking at life isn't healthy, that's going to create, well, that's going to create that kind of problem within you too. And
So yeah, sorry to interrupt. So these ideas you're talking about that you've mentioned before, that you feel that you aren't worthy, that you feel like what you do doesn't matter, that maybe you think you're no good, that nothing should be taken seriously, that if I flirt with that girl, I'll be creepy. Um,
yeah,
these are all ideas that came to us from the culture. Because you said, "Don't judge me" is one of the ideas out there, and I know there's a lot of these that are going around. But one that I wanted to touch on was that I think most of us hold this idea that what I feel and what I do, that's just who I am, and it's something that I don't have control over. It's just me. And I think fundamentally that idea that I can't control myself is one of these ideas, right?
it,
That can lead to some of these further ideas that what I feel is just me, or what I like is just what I like. That these are things that I can't control. Um, I mean, I think
yeah,
that's one of the ideas that we're given in the culture today.
yeah, absolutely. And we hear it all the time. And the
Yeah.
effect of this, the effect of that idea in our life, that what what we like and what we do, that's just who we are. Everyone has to accept it. Don't judge me. That the effect of that is that you don't have control over yourself, because if
Mhm.
what you like is just what you like and you can't change it, then you're just going to be the way that you are forever, and you can't change. You have no efficacy over yourself or your
Right.
life.
Yeah, and I guess that's one of the more fundamental one of these ideas that we want to challenge, is that you do have control of your life. Um, I mean, that's why we're doing all these videos and making Helios a thing, is because we want to reintroduce this idea that you can control yourself. Well, I want to jump a little further, because one thing, one danger that I think can stem from thinking about this is the culture's giving us all these ideas that are causing us to sabotage our life. It can feel scary, and I think something we can say that will caution people against that emotion is that they're really not to blame for this, right? Um, I mean, they're getting these ideas from the culture, um, but that doesn't mean that that this is their fault, right? Because I mean, it's not like they came up with these ideas themselves. They were forced on them over years and years of watching movies and talking to adults and listening to what their friends had to say, and all these different influences. So, I mean, over time, this can build up uh, in you without you knowing it, and that's not your fault, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this isn't something to sort of hate yourself over. Absolutely not. I mean, it's the reason why we're talking about this and bringing it to light, just like in a situation of very mild self-sabotage, of procrastination. This isn't something to go, oh God, I procrastinated, I'll hate myself forever. It's just it's something to be able to recognize and go, oh, okay. And once you realize this is happening, then you can take action and correct it. Because I mean, ultimately, you've got this goal. I want to be happy, or I want to have a stable life, or I want to be able, to feel in control of my emotions, or you've got these these issues in the way of this goal. And the only reason we're talking about this is just so that we can clarify what's creating this kind of block between you and your goal. And it's certainly not something to be down on yourself about. I mean, be understanding of yourself,
Yeah.
be understanding of, like this is the culture I've grown up in. And like, if anything, it should be fun and exciting to, oh, if this isn't the way to be, I now see a way out. I now see I can take action and I can change.
Yeah. I think a good way to think about this point is it's not me that has failed, but rather it's the culture that has failed me. It could have
Absolutely.
it could have given me the ideas that could have led to my happiness, but instead it's got me in this perpetual cycle of depression, anxiety, purposelessness. And now it's my
Yeah.
job to get out of it, right?
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, if you look at a, a lot of the art that has existed throughout human history, I mean, there's so much of it which is so uplifting and beautiful and glorious. And then you look at a lot of the crap coming out today, and you just like, yeah, don't. This is certainly not something to blame yourself for, but rather it's the failure of so many other content producers out there, the artists and the intellectuals of our time who are perpetuating this kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
the thing to to really focus on, I think, is this is about taking control of your life. It's about taking control of your happiness. Because I
And
mean,
I guess the
that's the
first,
goal.
yeah, and I guess the first step to sort of You know what they say, the first step to solving a problem is recognizing that there is one. And that's sort of why we're here, is to help identify that this is happening, that it's not your
Yeah.
fault, but that you do have the power to fix it. Um, and I mean, if the goal is happiness, then that's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's certainly something that's so common and that I hear all the time, and really that I feel myself often, and that's something that I think you and I can both agree on. I mean, these aren't problems that we don't suffer from. I mean, we grew up in this culture, same as anybody else. Something that I've heard so often from so many people is this idea of feeling stuck in their life. It's this feeling of frustration, no matter what the problem is. I mean, we've only named depression, anxiety, not being able to date, and sort of a feeling of purposelessness. But the overall feeling really is a sense of not being in control. You're stuck in life.
Definitely.
You don't want, people do not want to be in the life that they're in today. They're frustrated about some fundamental element of their life, and they don't see a way to change that. And it's this idea that will help change that. Is, you do have control, but you find that control by addressing the ideas you were raised to believe, because they're creating this cycle of self-sabotage.
Yeah. We mentioned that sort of step one here is identifying the problem. Well, I think we can help our listeners, Eric, by going a little further to step two. Once you see that this is an issue, how do we get started? How do we start to reverse these ideas that we hold? I mean, a lot of them are ingrained deeply in us, and a lot of them we don't even know that they are ideas that we hold. Maybe we're comfortable feeling those things. Maybe it's something we don't want to let go of. What is the way? What are some tips that we can give our listeners to for them to get started on a journey to untangling all of this within themselves, reintegrating, getting rid of the bad ideas and taking in some good ones, like you said, like that I am in control. Where do we start on that journey? What's step two?
Well, there's sort of two elements here, and one is philosophy, and philosophy is a system of ideas, and that's exactly what you and I here at Helios are trying to integrate into a new way of life. We're trying to utilize philosophy to understand, okay, if our culture's way of looking at life is corrupt, then how do we live? And that's exactly what Helios is here to offer. But there's another way, and this is something that you can start doing today, and that is through art. And this is something that I mentioned earlier, actually, is that, I mean, human history is filled with so much fantastic art that you don't have to continue indulging in our culture's art. I mean, it's kind of funny how many, I mean, you just go on YouTube or anywhere and you'll find just tons of videos of people, or tons of content of people complaining about how vacuous the movies and the TV shows and the music is today. And there's no reason anyone has to continue to indulge in that stuff. And art gives you a view of life. It's showing you in emotional terms what life should be. And that is such a powerful tool for you to, in order to get a different view of life, to indulge in art from a different time, from a different culture.
Yeah.
You know,
And
for instance, oh, go ahead, Jonathan.
well, I was going to say, I don't think it's far off to say that a lot of the ideas, these bad ideas that we've been talking about, that we have gotten from the sort of modern art that's around us today, that we've grown up with. And it really goes to show you the power of art in our lives. I mean, art isn't just something we do for fun and entertainment. It's providing us with those ideas, with crucial life-serving ideas, or life-defeating ideas, that impact our day-to-day life. And you can start to make a really big change in your life, in the way you come at life, by changing the art that you surround yourself with. And I think this is the point you're trying to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a lot of people, including psychologists, have noted how powerful your environment can have on your mental health, on your emotional attitude. I mean, even something as simple as like the color of the room can have a massive impact on your long term. If you're in a home with things which encourage depressive outlooks, like depressing artwork on your walls, and you watch horror movies and you listen to sad music, you're probably not going to be encouraged to be happy.
I guess the place to begin then is I don't just want to give our listeners a negative to get away from the art today, but I think we can give some recommendations for art that they can steer to. But you're going to want to subscribe to our channels, because we're going to go into a lot more detail about how to get into different art, and give different recommendations. But just as a place to start reading some 19th century literature. I mean, if you're not a novel reader, it's going to take work to get into that, but that's a good place to start. Watch older movies. And I don't mean movies from the 80s and the 70s. I'm talking about before the 60s. Watch some black and white movies. Watch some movies from the golden era of Hollywood. Those, again, will be coming out with content to help get you into these older art forms, but nothing beats an older movie. And last but not least, start listening to some classical music. Turn on some Tchaikovsky, turn on some Beethoven, listen to a symphony, see what you can get out of it. I think those are some places to start with getting into older art. What you're going to find is that you're going to enter a whole nother world, truly, from the world you're living in today. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard. It's a journey, like anything, like any journey to self-betterment. It's going to take effort. But this is where you can begin.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to be coming out with content about that. And Jonathan has a video about how to get into classical music. And eventually we're going to be coming out with a course, about how you can start applying a countercultural philosophy to your life, to start not only re-examining, but also start living differently, and taking control of your life and getting through these barriers that are keeping you from this goal of control and happiness.
Yeah. And ultimately, this is Helios. This is the purpose of Helios. We're here to show you and guide you to a different way of life, a way that's different from the way we're living today in the modern world, a world that's sinking us into the cycle of depression and anxiety and unhappiness. We want to help lead you to something better. So be sure to stay in touch with us, subscribe, follow our Facebook, follow our YouTube. We're going to be coming out with content to really go into all of this.
Yeah, we really can't wait to connect with all of you. Thanks so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.